What's up, YouTube? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tree, and if you've seen my channel intro video, then you probably know this channel is about me sharing my journey into creating my own animated series. Now today, I'm going to share my character design process of one of the main characters in The Other Side of Paradise, Young Tree. Now since the series won't always move in a linear timeline, I need to design Tree at different stages in his life. Now at this stage, he is around 7 or 8 years old. So today we're going to design him at age 13 to 14 years old. Now to do this, I'm going to reference him as the younger character. One thing I notice about kids is they seem to have bigger heads. I don't know if they're trying to grow into that head or if it's because their body is just so small. So for the older version, his head will be smaller and we'll start to thin him out a little bit more as a whole with his hands and arms and so forth. Now, I actually tried to record the sketching part, but for whatever reason, my computer was just not having it that day, and I didn't realize it until I was almost done. I was talking to myself and everything the whole time, thinking that I was talking to you guys, but yeah, it didn't work out. So anyways, I have a gang of characters to create, so we'll catch that process on the next one. So here we have our initial sketch in Photoshop, and you can see how I aged the character a bit, but I still left him very similar and in a very similar pose. When I first created Little Tree, I didn't draw his entire body, so here I add his legs to complete him as a character. When creating a character, it's important that you draw that character from the side as well as from the back, kind of get like a 360 full turnaround perspective of the character. We won't be covering that today, so I'll cover that at another time in the future. But before I can move forward to the outline phase, I'm just going to finish up a few details on him, like completing his hand and his arm. So at this part of the process, I want to get my lines to be as final as possible before I take this sketch and I move it over into Illustrator. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, you can still use this workflow with software like Clip Studio Paint, Procreate, and many others. I happen to like to do my outlines in Vector and have been working with Photoshop and Illustrator and Adobe products for a while. So it just happens to be my go-to because I'm more familiar with it. Before I got into animation, I was doing a lot of stuff with graphic design work and things of that nature. And when I went to school, they taught us Photoshop and Illustrator, and then Premiere came along and other programs came along after that. And we just continued to learn those programs because they all followed the same basic outline, I guess you could say. One thing I don't like about Adobe these days is that it is a subscription-based program. So you used to be able to just buy it, pay for it one time, and you were good. So for a lot of artists who might just be starting out, it may be a little too expensive, unless, of course, you're in school and you can apply for a student discount, which also really helps. One thing to keep in mind as an artist is as you advance to more extensive software, you need to include that overhead cost when you charge people for work, because without your computer, your Wacom tablet, as well as your software, you can't work. So one tip for beginners is to start where it makes sense for you. I just recently got an iPad so that I could draw and sketch on the go. And one of the first programs that I got when I got my iPad was Procreate. And I really love it so far. And it's a very affordable program that has a lot of tutorials and support videos. So that might be a good starting point for those who are wondering where they can start. You can also do animation in that program. And how now I'm recording on my screen. When you draw or when you do your art in Procreate, it automatically records it for you. So if you later want to make a tutorial and you want to speak over it and explain your process, you already have the video there and it records it for you automatically. So I think that's really great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next phase, and I'm going to complete this. I'm going to kind of fast forward through some of the other work that I was doing. And finalizing this actual character in the pencil sketching stage, and I'm going to open up Illustrator. So now getting into Illustrator, I'm going to basically explain some of the shortcuts and some of the keys that I'm going to be using primarily in Illustrator. One of the things that you're going to be using a lot is if you don't have a Wacom tablet, you want to be using the pen tool. The pen tool is something you're going to really want to know and understand. And when you get used to how it works, it'll make your workflow that much easier. It's a lot of programs that have this same type of format. So like I said, you'll be able to use this in other programs that have similar formats. I know they have Vector and Clip Studio Art as well. So you can do vector drawings and vector things within that program as well. So if you know this, then you can kind of apply that to different platforms. And I think that's one of the main things that I always want to stress with all of these different programs is that they're not that different. Focus on the similarities. And if you learn the particular program that you're using, then you can get great at whatever you're doing. You can get the results that you want from your program. Don't feel that you need to switch to every different program that somebody else is using because you're seeing them getting a certain result. You probably can get that result. And that was my thing. I looked at people doing things in Photoshop or even in Clip Studio Paint with Photoshop-like capability, and I wanted to be able to do it in Vector because that was my favorite medium of coloring and drawing and designing. And usually I wouldn't even go through this first step of drawing things out the way that I drew it out in Photoshop. This is a new step for me, but I think it's very important because you do need that sketchy step. Like some people don't even like to draw on paper anymore. Like everything is strictly digital. And I think while that's cool and it saves time, I think it's also great to really still have that original skill. Being able to draw on paper is still important. You still need that. You might get a job and somebody wants you to draw something really quick for an idea, for example, on like a little piece of paper in front of them. You don't want to have to go to the computer and be, I got to do it a digital way in order to make that happen. No, you just want to be able to draw on all different mediums. You want to be able to draw on sidewalks, walls, whatever, whatever the situation is. You want to be able to stand up to the challenge. So with that being said, this is just a tool and it's a reflection of what drawing on paper was. Like the Wacom tablet is just a tool that is modeling itself after paper and pencil. So we don't want to forget that. So the tools that you want to get the most familiar with for what we're going to be doing today are the pen tool, which is number one. With your quick command, that's P. And so as you can see here, when you hover above, they provide a little preview of how you're supposed to use it. You can also click and get more information on how to use this particular tool and every tool here on your page. So I'm not going to go through and explain them. If you have the program, then you can utilize the UI that they gave you for all of this right here. Next, we have the paintbrush tool. Your quick command for that is B. You're going to notice that I use the blob brush the most, and the quick command for that is Shift B. The reason I like to use the blob brush is because the shape that I create is automatically a shape. And what I mean by that is when you use a regular brush, you still have a line that is represented by what you would call a stroke. So when you make a line like this, you can alter the stroke still and then change how thick or thin you may want it to be. Now, I like to work as if I'm drawing with a Prismacolor marker. Once again, digital imitating our original reality. This way, when I add new shapes, I can join them together as one complete shape at this point, and then I can erase parts of it very easily. This just makes my workflow more natural to what I'm used to working with and when I work with markers and things of that nature. Those with a Wacom tablet can simply turn the stylus around and erase. Or if you're using a mouse, you can hit the E button on your keypad and you can erase like that as well. I would recommend if anyone is going into this line of work, you definitely want to get you some type of Wacom tablet, regardless of what that might be. If you want a video on that in the future, just let me know. Or it's a lot of other videos on YouTube that you can check out and get an idea of what might be the best stylus for you to purchase on your artist journey. The next step is outlining, or what we will call the inking stage. Now this is where we use the sketch that we did in Photoshop and begin to stylistically trace our character. I like to use variation in my lines. So as I add my lines, I press lightly when I want a thin line, and then I add pressure when I want the line to become thicker. This takes a little getting used to in the beginning, or at least it did for me. A good exercise is just to draw straight lines and vary the thickness as you go along. If you go to the blob tool and you double click, a menu will pop up where you can adjust the accuracy of your line versus how smooth you would like your line to be. This is basically the program's way of assisting you with your lines, more or less, depending on how you adjust it. Now underneath that is size and variation. You can also adjust that to your own personal liking as well. I generally leave angle, variation, and roundness alone, but feel free to play around with that as well. Okay, now after taking time inking and stylizing our character, it's time for colors. This is a good time to reference other art that you've seen, or maybe get on Pinterest, DeviantArt, or Behance and get some inspiration for your colors. Find the tones that you like and create swatches for the colors that you intend to use for your character. Now for me, this is more of a starting point, as I tend to make adjustments to my color swatches and customize them to my liking. And I also have artwork that I've done in the past that I can use as a starting point. Once we have our swatches, we can begin adding our color. There are many different ways to do your color process in Illustrator. I'll show you different ones as I create more character design videos. Today, we'll start off with making sure that all of our lines are closed and touching around the outsides of our character. This is very important because of our next step. We're gonna make a copy of our outline, so let's create a new layer and place it underneath and then label it as color. Next, we'll paste in place by hitting Command F. If you happen to be using the PC instead of a Mac, simply go up to the Edit tab, find Paste in Place, which should also show you what the keyboard shortcut is for you as well. Alright, after you paste in place, you're gonna wanna bring that layer down to your color layer. So now that you have two copies of that, you don't want them both to be on the same layer, you wanna have them separated. Now, navigate to the Pathfinder tool. If it's not already visible, go to Window and click on Pathfinder. This is one of the most useful tools on Illustrator that I constantly use. So it may be worth looking up a tutorial on how to use the Pathfinder tool if you are not already familiar with it. Now we're going to click the Unite, then Divide, then Unite once again. This gives us the inside shape, which now will serve as our base color. At this point, we'll also utilize our pencil tool, which is a great tool for drawing color shapes. Using the pencil tool, which we can also do quick edits with by clicking a point and then releasing on another point, is very helpful in speeding up the coloring process when you make mistakes. And in my opinion, it beats the pen tool because the points automatically show up instead of having to click and then drag each point to adjust a line or a shape. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and start adding the other colors like his hair. We'll start with his hair so you guys can see what this looks like. So we're gonna use our pencil tool to kind of draw in our shape. So I'll carefully make an outline around, and then up here, I won't be so careful. Okay, so I did that a little sloppy on purpose, so I want to show you guys how we will clean it up. So, for one, these areas in here, you can easily take the pencil tool and pick a point, like this point up here, drag it down, and now we're making a better line. So now that's tighter. Then I'll come from this point, fix that line. And then too, just another note too, if you need to flip the canvas. Okay, so you have this hand icon right over here. Now that hand is your rotate view tool. The shortcut for that is H. So while you're working, you can hit the shift button and H together. Now you're gonna wanna hold it down, and then you can very easily just rotate your canvas, which makes it a lot easier for you to continue with the pencil tool or any other tool that you may choose to use. And to that one, you see I didn't even have to go to a point, I just went right on the line. So if you get it right on the line, it also works as well. So you just want to make sure you make contact with the line. Like that. And then we'll come back around here with this part the same way. connect with the line. And as long as we're in the lines, we're okay. So now to get your canvas to go back into its default position, you're just gonna go and hit the escape button and it'll return right back to its default position. And I'm just gonna correct this right here. Boom. And so this ear isn't as straight as I thought it was, so we'll just come back down here a little bit, correct that around the ear, and then let's continue this up here over the top of his afro. And after that, I want to put a color in there. So that's the black color I'm going to put in there. And one of the reasons that we use this base color, I'm going to show you right now, the Pathfinder tool does some amazing things. So if we click on this layer, and I think I have this on another layer, I made a hair layer right here, which is right above my color layer. So I'm going to click on this hair layer. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to click on the color layer one more time, and I'm going to Command C and Command F, which is copy and paste in place, of course. And then the one that's on top is selected. So I'll also select my hair at the same time. So we're going to go to Pathfinder, and we're going to click Divide. Then I'm going to click the outside area, and now you see it cut it directly to what the shape was for my initial shape, so I don't have to do all of that extra drawing around the outlines of the colors and the shapes. So this is a faster way of getting your colors together. But you still want to, let me get rid of that. And then I'll put my color layer back on. So you just want to make sure that you have contrast in color, so that way you can see what's going on. And it's just that easy. And then you can do the same thing with your t-shirt, with the Africa symbol, with the jeans, so on and so forth. I'm not gonna do every single piece, but what I will touch on is this part right here. Since this is not supposed to be colored, what we can do is we can come in with the eraser tool. And I'm just gonna turn my eraser around, turn my stylus around, just like that. And now I've created a hole. So then from that point on, I'll grab my pencil tool, and then I'll just come in with my pencil tool and I'll redefine that line. And open that space up. So now I'm opening up this space, making sure that line touches. Going down here, making sure that line touches when I bring it back up to the top. And one more time at the bottom. And just make sure that line touches. And now we have our space where we need our space to be. So that way when we continue coloring our shirt and everything else, that line won't be an issue. It'll already be shaved out the way that we need it to be shaved out. See, just do the Africa symbol just as in the first shape of the Africa symbol. And for that one, I wouldn't do any of the tricks that I just showed you. I would just simply get my pencil tool and trace around it. And once again, the more you practice playing with these tools, the better you'll get at using them. So, just keep on practicing and you'll get better. And just know that you can always go back and make adjustments, so you don't have to be perfect all the time. But it will save you time if you get it right more than you get it wrong. So I could just put any color in there for right now. And as you notice, that's on my color layer as well. So everything that I put on top will continue to build on top. So the next thing that I probably should have done would be the shirt. And then this will go on top of it, so on and so forth, so that everything is on top. Now, if you do have a problem with things being on top or on the bottom, that's an easy fix too. Let me just draw a shape underneath here just to show you. This could represent like the white of the shirt area. I'm just gonna click on that. You see it's on top now. I'm gonna click this and I'm gonna make it disappear for a second. And to do that, when I'm going to hide it, I'm going to basically click on Command and 3. So Command 3 hides that. Then I'm gonna click on this yellow and I'm gonna hit Command Shift and the bracket button. So it's Command Shift and then the bracket to the right. So now I'm gonna bring that back, and then to bring that white back, Command Option 3 brings it back. So Command Option 3, and now you see we have that white piece back here. And if we wanted to even continue shaping the shirt, we could if we wanted to do it that way. So there's many different options that, and actually I would probably want to do it more like that. So now I could come around here, be a little sloppy with it if I wanted to, because we could do that same trick that we did earlier. So I'll come back around up to the shoulder, come down here around the neck, and connect it right here. And then I'll come down here with the shirt as well. And as long as we're on the outside of it, we good. And then the bottom, of course, you will want to have a bottom that's closely related to the top as well. I'm just doing some rough shapes just so we can quickly rough this in. Like so. And then I want this to come out beyond so that it'll clip. It'll clip that for me. So once again, just make sure, yeah, everything is in there, and then we can always make adjustments after. So what I'll do is I'll come back to my base color, copy and paste, Control C, Control F. Then I'll click on this top layer, and then I'm gonna click on divide. And I'm gonna command click that. Okay, so that was the layer that we need to get rid of. And then we have our outside stuff that we also need to get rid of. Another button that you can also hit so you can start seeing things more clearly is Command Y. Command Y is going to show you the outlines of everything. So the different things that I couldn't see before, since it was white on white, now I can see that. So I can just get rid of that very easily. Click Command Y back. Get rid of that. And then let's change the shirt to another color so we can see it better. Let's make it this blue for right now. And now, once again, for the color of the arm, since the arm wouldn't be the same color as the shirt, we just go right back in here, find our line by clicking the main shape, and then we'll go around and then we'll carve out the space for the hand. And just make sure we touch the line. Just like so. And for me, I just do a little bit by little bit. Whatever I can see on the screen is what I attack. And I just keep going from there. And then, you make your adjustments. If you see you're not quite on top of the line like you should be, you go back and make your adjustments. But it's a lot quicker this way, at least for me. And I think if you practice this and continue doing this, it just gets easier and easier as you go along. And the more you do it, the more used to it you'll get. So there's that. So we already have the shirt and part of that Africa pendant already colored in. We're actually gonna have to put the right colors in here, of course. And then make sure this is underneath the lines. So you don't want it to be coming and peeking out above the lines. I'm a real perfectionist when it comes to that type of stuff. I like everything to be correct. I don't like to see any mistakes, even though I know a lot of times other people aren't gonna notice it. That's just me and how I work. I'm very picky about that. So there we go. Oops. There we go. All right, so now we would put the color in for the rest of the chain. So on and so forth. We have highlights here for his eyes. Let's see what color did I put that on. So I'll put that on the outline layer because I definitely want that to be on top of the black. So you could either make another layer and put it on top of the outline layer, or you could do it like I did it, whatever works best for you. I also have another shadow layer. So on top of this layer, oh, okay, I think it's right there already. So I want my hair to have a shadow. This is the shadow that I drew for my hair. So the black in the back, I won't want that to be all the way to the back. So I'm gonna bring this to the front, once again with Command, Shift, and then the brackets to the right. Then I'm gonna bring the other one back from hiding, and then I'm going to make sure that this is a solid black color. So that way it gives me the difference that I want to see. So that there you see the highlight. So that light would be coming from this direction. That way the shadow would be in the back in this area over here. Kind of getting more into how shadows will come about. But that's basically how you would color, and we'll continue this process throughout the rest of it. I'll fast forward through that part and show you the rest. Now our final step is one of my most favorite steps, the shadows. After we have filled in all of our base colors for our character, it's time to add depth and dimension to our character by placing our shadows and highlights. For this character, I won't be getting so detailed to where we'll need to add highlights or gradients for this particular one, so we'll save that for another video. One of the best ways to figure out how to place your shadows is to study reference artwork in the style in which best represents the style you are trying to achieve. In my case, I would study Afro Samurai, the Boondocks, and perhaps Dr. Stone, just as an example. In each one of these animated series, the artist finds the place where the light is coming from, and they use that as an indicator for which parts are going to be in the shade and which areas won't be in the shade. I'll add a new layer on top of my color layer at this point, and I'll title it Shadows. At this point, I'll use the color black, and I'll bring it down to about 20% or somewhere in that neighborhood. And then I'll begin to draw shapes, which, just like the color layer, end up underneath the outline layer, which is your guide to basically stay within the lines. It may take a while for you to get your shadows in the right places that make sense and are also pleasing to the eye. Take your time getting to understand how these areas of shading affect the look of your character, and when you're happy with it, you're done. I didn't want this tutorial to be too long, so I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. I wanted to share as much of this process as I possibly could, as I would scour YouTube searching for thorough breakdowns of this type of information. There was really only one lady that I have found on YouTube who really showed the level of skill in Illustrator that I was looking for with her colors and gradient work that I wanted to learn. But when I reached out, she wasn't too interested in sharing her process for whatever reason, even though I offered to pay her to teach me. This inspired me to study her work, slow down her time lapses, and try to figure out the rest of it on my own. Now, there was a bit of a language barrier as well, so I'm just grateful that she was kind enough to share her work with us on YouTube in the manner in which she did, because everything was really right there when I took the time to break it down and study what she was doing. This is my way to also pay it forward and save you guys a bit of time, since that's really one of the most valuable things in this life. So basically, this tutorial should serve as an example of the type of tutorials that I will be sharing on Patreon. Moving forward, I'll abbreviate these tutorials that I share on YouTube and keep them to about 10 minutes or less. So anyone who wants the longer, more detailed tutorials can check out the tiers and join me there. Now, those who become patrons will gain more access to me and have the opportunity to ask questions, as this type of work keeps me very busy. If you learned anything from this tutorial, please let me know by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and if you have any questions about anything that I've covered, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to all of you. I want to say thank you to my patrons, and I greatly appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video and would like to help make it possible for me to make more content like this, consider joining us on Patreon, where I have different tiers and upload exclusive content, more detailed tutorials on art, illustration, music production, and of course, animation. I'm excited about building a community of people where we can share ideas, learn, and possibly collaborate, all while funding the other side of paradise. And if you ladies and gentlemen create any cool characters with the help of this tutorial, please feel free to tag me when you post it on IG at Tree of Life or even on TikTok. I'll leave my info below, and until next time, may your brilliance stay driven, and I hope you enjoy the journey.